Bitcoin was still an unfinished idea when a single exchange quietly became the central gateway to the world's first digital fortune, and almost no one questioned how fragile that position truly was. In the early years, Bitcoin attracted belief faster than understanding, and Mt. Gox became the place where that belief was stored, traded, and left unattended. Users trusted the platform because it appeared to work, prices climbed steadily, and nothing looked broken on the surface. Deposits arrived, balances updated, trades executed, and confidence followed momentum. Then one day the system stopped responding, and what first looked like a temporary technical problem slowly revealed itself as one of the largest losses in financial history: the disappearance of approximately 850,000 Bitcoin. This event was not only a financial collapse measured in billions of dollars, but a psychological shock that forced the entire crypto ecosystem to confront its weakest assumption: the idea that innovation alone could replace structure and accountability. Mt. Gox did not begin as a financial institution, a startup accelerator, or a revolutionary technology company. It started as a small website designed for trading Magic the Gathering cards, a niche hobby project with no connection to global finance or long-term ambition. The name itself reflected that limited purpose, and there was no strategic roadmap behind it. Bitcoin entered the platform almost by accident, during a time when experimentation was common and regulation was practically non-existent. Adding Bitcoin trading felt harmless, even exciting, rather than dangerous. At the time, Bitcoin was cheap, obscure, and ignored by governments and traditional banks. As interest slowly grew, Mt. Gox attracted early adopters simply because alternatives were scarce and convenience mattered more than security. This accidental growth transformed the platform into something far larger than it was designed to be. When Mark Karpeles took control of Mt. Gox, the exchange was already expanding faster than its internal systems could safely support. Karpeles was known as a technically skilled developer who believed most problems could be solved through direct control and code. He managed servers, wallets, and infrastructure personally, often without delegation or independent oversight. This approach functioned when the platform was small, but it became increasingly dangerous as user deposits and transaction volumes exploded. Mt. Gox was no longer an experiment. It was becoming critical infrastructure for a global market that operated without pause. Despite this responsibility, the company lacked basic financial controls, internal audits, risk management processes, and clear separation of duties. As Bitcoin's price surged between 2011 and 2013, Mt. Gox absorbed an enormous share of global trading activity. At its peak, it processed nearly 70% of all Bitcoin transactions worldwide. This concentration created a powerful illusion of stability. If Mt. Gox functioned, Bitcoin itself appeared functional. Media coverage reinforced this belief by portraying Mt. Gox as a legitimate and dominant exchange rather than a rapidly scaled system held together by outdated software and manual processes. Internally, the reality was far less stable. Wallet management was disorganized, private keys were insufficiently protected, and accounting systems failed to accurately track balances. Bitcoin began leaking out of the system slowly over time. These losses were not immediately obvious because rising prices masked discrepancies and growth concealed weakness. Optimism replaced caution, and urgency replaced oversight. Warning signs appeared long before the collapse. Users experienced withdrawal delays, unexplained freezes, and inconsistent communication. Online forums filled with concern, but most warnings were dismissed as temporary issues caused by rapid growth. The culture surrounding Bitcoin at the time discouraged skepticism. Questioning infrastructure felt unnecessary when prices continued to rise and early participants were becoming wealthy. This environment allowed unresolved vulnerabilities to remain hidden. By early 2014, Mt. Gox quietly suspended withdrawals. Panic spread quickly as users realized their funds were inaccessible. Communication from the company was limited and unclear, increasing fear and speculation. Soon afterward, Mt. Gox filed for bankruptcy protection in Japan and revealed that approximately 850,000 Bitcoin were missing. The announcement sent shockwaves through the global crypto market. Bitcoin's price dropped sharply, and trust in centralized exchanges collapsed almost overnight. For many outside observers, the incident confirmed the belief that Bitcoin itself was unsafe, rather than highlighting the risks of centralized custody layered on top of decentralized technology. Japanese authorities launched an investigation, and Tokyo police seized servers, records, and internal documents. Mark Karpeles was arrested and publicly questioned, becoming the visible face of the collapse. Media narratives focused on fraud, deception, and incompetence, but deeper investigation revealed a more complex reality. The loss was not caused by a single dramatic breach. Instead, Bitcoin had been draining from the system gradually for years due to weak security practices, outdated software, and poor internal monitoring. The exchange lacked a reliable method to determine how much Bitcoin it actually controlled at any given time. When the truth emerged, recovery was no longer possible. The legal process that followed became one of the longest and most complex cases in cryptocurrency history, stretching across nearly a decade. Karpeles faced charges related to data manipulation and mismanagement, but accusations of directly stealing Bitcoin were ultimately dismissed. During this prolonged legal battle, the crypto industry changed dramatically. Bitcoin's price rose far beyond its Mt. Gox era valuation, attracting institutional investors and global attention. This created a painful irony for creditors. The Bitcoin remaining in the Mt. Gox estate appreciated massively over time. As a result, some users, after waiting many years for resolution, stood to recover amounts that exceeded the original value of their losses. This outcome did not represent justice or system strength. It highlighted how volatility and time could distort failure into delayed compensation while ignoring the psychological stress, lost trust, and missed opportunities experienced by those affected. Many early users exited the market entirely, losing confidence not only in Mt. Gox but in centralized exchanges as a concept. The collapse reshaped the industry in lasting ways. Exchanges adopted cold storage, multi-signature wallets, proof of reserves, and independent audits as standard practices. Regulators who had previously ignored Bitcoin began drafting frameworks that would later define the market. Users learned painful lessons about custody and counterparty risk, understanding that decentralized assets stored on centralized platforms remained vulnerable to human failure. The 10-year legal process that followed unfolded quietly while the market moved on, creating a strange split between past failure and present growth. Court hearings, creditor meetings, and rehabilitation plans progressed slowly in Tokyo, largely unnoticed by a new generation of investors who had entered the market long after Mt. Gox disappeared. For them, Mt. Gox existed only as a cautionary reference, a historical warning rather than a lived experience. Yet its influence remained embedded in every major exchange design decision. Security became a selling point rather than an afterthought. Transparency turned into marketing language. Custody discussions entered mainstream conversations. Even government regulators frequently referenced Mt. Gox when justifying oversight, framing it as evidence that unchecked innovation could harm consumers. The case also reshaped how responsibility was assigned in crypto markets. Early narratives blamed individuals, but over time the focus shifted toward systems, incentives, and structural weaknesses. Mt. Gox demonstrated that decentralization at the protocol level could be undermined by centralization at the service level. This contradiction forced the industry to confront its own hypocrisy. Users wanted freedom, but they also wanted convenience. Exchanges offered both until they failed. The lesson was uncomfortable but necessary. Mt. Gox became the moment when Bitcoin stopped being a niche experiment and started being treated as a serious financial system with real consequences. The collapse did not erase belief in Bitcoin, but it stripped away naivety. It reminded the market that trust without verification is indistinguishable from risk, and that technological progress does not eliminate the need for governance, discipline, and accountability, a legacy that continues influencing investor psychology, exchange design, and regulatory caution long after the original platform disappeared from active markets entirely.